I don't know the women's names who I'm always passing by on my street.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. It is I, Emily Sophia, here to break down for you guys the latest episode of Better Call Saul. We are on 5-0, so spoiler alert before I dive into the mad thick of things, as I will be bearing all in this review. And I have to say, I was live tweeting this episode earlier, and I so elatedly tweeted out, "Alright, time to watch Breaking Bad." I mean, honestly, I think it's the alliteration. Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul. It's just enough to mess with me, but I had to laugh at how how completely, I mean, what I so adore about this show is kind of the universe building that is going on, and that it is not simply, it's not enough to call it a spin-off. Really what it is an expansion, you know? And I think that everybody who has fallen head over heels for this show, like I have, would probably agree. It's really that good. So before I get into the nit and the grit and the noirish darkness of this week's episode, I do want to say one more time, for those of you guys who haven't heard from my previous videos, I have a new side project channel that I've become a part of. It's called The Waffle Press. It is primarily hosted by my friend Diego, who created the channel, and I've come on as a cohort for a weekly kind of podcast show that we do Wednesday nights, uploaded by Thursdays. And we're gonna do something fun tomorrow, and we already have some cool videos with topics ranging from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Carter to Hannibal, so go listen to that sometime if you like TV and movie stuff. We're gonna be doing a lot more of that in the future. So anyways, I know what you guys came here for, and believe me, my heart is simply reeling over this episode. And before I went to do this review, I try to, when I can, read other reviews even before I start vlogging myself. Not necessarily to just become an information and opinion sponge, because that's really not the way I prefer to live life. It's more just to kind of take the temperature of the fan community and see where everybody's at about the episode as I proceed, because it, you know, it's a dialogue, really, is what this is. You guys go in the comments, I talk to you, you talk to each other, shabam, it's a global phenomenon. But anyways, so there was a reviewer, probably somebody on the AV Club, who is saying that this is perhaps the one episode thus far in the series that would fall flat if people didn't have a background in Breaking Bad. Now, all y'all raise your hands if, and I'm not raising my hand, I'm providing this as an example. Raise your hand if you have never seen Breaking Bad, and that Better Call Saul is your first entry into the Breaking Bad universe. Okay, I'm gonna put my hand down, because that ain't the truth. And I do recommend that you check out Breaking Bad because it is one of the most brilliant and beautiful things that will ever happen to / devastate your soul. That is true. But honestly, and I guess it's hard for me to kind of get outside of my own perspective, because I have seen Breaking Bad, and the story of Breaking Bad itself was completely enriched for me by getting this perspective into Mike's past, who he was before he became the man that, you know, the man that you call. besides Saul Goodman, right? But I think that in its own right, it was a very simple and tragic and beautifully told story that was at one point alighted by the presence of Jimmy McGill. But what was interesting was that his role in the episode, with kind of representing Mike at the station or the courthouse, wherever they were, it was more to kind of illuminate the character of Mike in a way. Although I would argue that it went both ways with what transpired in there. So Mike calls him in, you know, need a will, call McGill. And so Jimmy shows up. He's got coffee in tow. He is ready to rumble. He's got his young Paul Newman duds on. And he shows up only to find out that Mike has a very specific task for him, one that does not align with his current squeaky clean work as an elder law professional. This is a different kind of elder law. This is elder lawlessness, if you will. But anyway, so I found that to be very interesting because he is so adamant, at least in terms of his speech, the words that come tumbling out of his mouth, that I'm not doing that kind of thing. You think I'm gonna do this? I'm not gonna do this. How could you ever think that I would do this? That's not my thing. I do blah, 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 blah. Run his mouth till the cops come back in, the boys from Philly, and they're asking those pointed questions, and it's still up in the air whether or not Jimmy is going to actually spill the lukewarm coffee on the guy's breast pocket and steal the notebook. But at the same time, it's not up in the air for Mr. Mike because he sees right through Jimmy's act, and he has a gift for seeing into others. That much is completely clear. And it sets him up really well for the line of work that he pursues in the future, which I'll try not to talk too much about Breaking Bad and not say anything that's too spoilery, because I really do want those of you who haven't seen that show to pursue it and to go into it with some surprise. And there will be many, I can tell you that, if the internet didn't already ruin it for you already. So when they get back into the car later on, and Jimmy is frazzled and frustrated because although things went exactly according to plan, and he had himself a little job, a little hour to just kind of sit there and play the red herring. Or not red herring, whatever you want to call it. He was basically just kind of a paperweight until he played his role at the very end. So he really did get paid to just bring that coffee, essentially. But it was so interesting how he seemed kind of distraught that Mike knew exactly what he was going to do. And that, of course, he had the opportunity to choose not to, but he was going to anyway. And that is sort of the way that whole situation transpired, is a testament to the acuity of Mike, the fact that he is so dead-on perceptive, that he knows people to a T, which is evidenced in the fact that he was able to figure out that his son Matt's former fellow cops killed him. It all really played nicely together. So even though we had just this one little sliver of the future Saul Goodman in the picture, I think that he was really well used, and that, again, this is all about universe building. This is all about expanding the world of Breaking Bad, but then also telling these fascinating stories that in and of themselves as standalone pieces are very beautifully and evocatively done. And truly, Jonathan Banks is a freaking phenom. This guy is well on par with Bob Odenkirk in terms of the stunning performances that he brings to the show. And to be clear, for those of you who haven't seen Breaking Bad, this is, well, really not a side that we got to see of Mike. So this isn't just rehashing old territory and kind of bringing everybody up to speed, like back to Genesis, as it were. You know, we haven't already been to the beginning of the Breaking Bad gospel. You know, we kind of started in a different place. So this is new territory for us too, but it really colors the everything that we see transpire with Mike in the future. The dedication that he has to Kaylee, and that he wants to give every dollar to her to secure her future and to give her a good life after losing his son because of his own actions. Everything that he does in the future while still dirty is like an act of atonement for what he got his son into. I tweeted out earlier, I was trying to tweet some of my favorite lines from the episode as I experienced them and just kind of let them wash over me. But the part where he was, you know, suffice it to say that I broke my boy moment, the laughing, the tears. The laughing is just that scathing self-loathing. Look what my hands have wrought. I did this. In trying to save him, by compelling him to become a part of this system, I broke my own son. Because while his son Matt tried to take Mike's advice, to accept the kickbacks and to just go on to get on, or get on to go on. I don't know, I feel like I'm spoon rising that in my mind. But he tries, but it's that hesitation that becomes so clear to all of the other cops that are already a part of this system of corruption. I immediately had to think of Gotham, you know, the way that Mike was telling Stacy, his daughter-in-law, about, you know, everybody was doing it, this is the way it is. So he's kind of like the anti-Jim Gordon, if we're thinking about the Fox TV series Gotham, I suppose. He's in a very, very different kind of place, but one of such deep remorse for the way that everything went down. I mean, his actions are his actions, and his choices are his choices. But really, it's the fact that his son, who was clean, was made dirty by his instruction, by his advice, that he had to expose himself to his son, and in so doing, take him down, thinking there was a chance that he could be saved. And yet he was killed for nothing. For nothing. And that nothingness that led to Matt's death was just that dissonance in his mind about, you know, why accept this? Why be a part of this? Why is this the way that things are? And Mike sees the strength of his son. I mean, the nothingness was that core strength, that refusal to play by these battered rules, you know, and it's just such a beautifully told tragedy. Like, I felt like in that hour that I had just watched a film, and it sunk its teeth into me. I mean, I'm thinking I'm sinking my teeth into this episode, but no, it sunk its teeth into me. It's bullets in the shoulder. But so there was so much that was so well done in getting to see this side of Mike, and this nightmare that he lives with inside is so... We already loved Mike for everything that he was, and assumed that he had some kind of spotted past to end up where he did. But then we see how Kaylee becomes his saving grace, how he even kind of adopts, in some ways, Jesse Pinkman later on, and he has this kind of softness towards him that it's not very overtly expressed, shall we say. But whereas Mike broke his family just as, like, Walter White did, except that Mike understands. He sees everything for exactly what it is, and Walter is driven by very different motivations. I'm just kind of playing with some parallels in my mind. I don't know what was meant to be, what I'm reading into. There's so many different ways to interpret what we're seeing so far. But yeah, just so much that was so cool. I loved the simplicity with which some of the scenes in this episode were shot, and then the scene in Stacy's house in Albuquerque where she and Mike are at last dealing with this situation and telling the truth, and how I love the entire direction and the feel of everything. And the fact that it wasn't even just Mike going out and shooting the dirty cops in cold blood. Rather, it was in very hot blood, very alcohol-infused blood. We see that this is the way that he was dealing with his son's death. All the while knowing exactly what happened, knowing the entirety of the situation. I have to jump back to the beginning of the episode. I love that scene where he goes into the ladies' room, you know, just the unassuming janitor, grabs himself a little feminine product and dresses his bullet wound. I mean, oh gosh, just really, really powerful stuff. And that is the character of Mike, is that bullet wounds that he's constantly covering up and living with. And that was that, I'm trying to piece the timeline of this episode together, because that was right when, yeah, okay, so the beginning of the episode was when he got to Albuquerque, right? I hope I didn't say that wrong earlier in the episode. I don't know, because at first I thought he was going to visit Stacy, but she and Kaylee moved to Albuquerque, and then he did, right? I think so. Anyways, so, you know, he's at the bar, gets himself all loosened up, and at this point, you know, we're not exactly sure what all is going to go down. He used his crazy string unlocking magic. Magic Mike here, ladies and gentlemen, the true Magic Mike. Still a little baffled as to how he was able to make that happen. But he ain't your average cat's cradle player. That's for freaking certain. So he's just rolling down the street. Lord knows if he's intending to pull anything at this point, or, you know, if he's been planning on it all along, hanging out at that bar. And then the guys pick him up, and they decide to pick his mind. And would he have told them the truth about what he believed if he wasn't drunk? I mean, it's hard to say, but Mike isn't exactly a guy without a plan. I have to bounce back to another point in the episode earlier too, where he's at the veterinary clinic, you know, getting stitched up. That was such a John Wick moment for me. What is it with these tough guys getting all their procedures done at the animal clinic, you know? Rough old dogs, I guess. But it was all really well done. And the fact that Mike got to overhear the guys as they're trying to plot how they're gonna set the scene, like, oh, the pain from losing his son, and, you know, just bodies upon bodies for these motherfuckers, and then turn around and Mike has got his gun pointed, and he had the empty gun that he made sure they took away from him. You would think that they would have been able, I mean, not that I am a regular gun handler myself, but you would think that when they took the bullet out, or not the bullet, the gun out of his jacket, like when they threw him in the back of the cop car, you would think that they'd be able to maybe tell that it was empty. Maybe that's just me imagining things. I don't know. I've never held a handgun. I've only shot like rifles and stuff, but that's my life. Another story, another time. But, yeah, and so we see that there is this, you know, self-defense and vengeance, and all these things kind of converge in this one very powerful moment. And he asks Stacy at the very end, when he's finally telling her everything that happened, or when she puts the pieces together herself in front of him, he asks her, you know what happened, but can you live with it? And I think that he sort of asks himself that. And really the only way that he lives with anything, I feel, is because of Kaylee. Because he's freaking grandpa of the year, you know? He certainly endears himself to her and cares so abundantly for her, to the point that all this dirtiness that has chased him down all his life, and that he's good at, fundamentally, he tries to turn into some form of good. And that's Mike for you. He is no black and white fella. That's for sure. He is lingering in the gray, but he makes for such a powerful offset to the character of Jimmy, who's still trying to find his footing, and who still believes that maybe, just maybe, he can be clean. But he's a dirty guy too. Dumping the lattes on cops, you know? That's just the beginning. It's the gateway to all the shenanigans that he will be a part of as Saul Goodman. But yeah, so by all means, please head down to the comments section and fill in any blanks that I missed, anything that I failed to address, I'd be more than happy to chat with you guys there as soon as I get the chance. So thank you so much for watching this review. I hope that if you haven't seen Breaking Bad, that you found this episode to be intriguing. I like the way that they are strategically building up the character of Jimmy and not at this crazy breakneck pace. It's really not the way that they need to go about it. It's this nice slow burn, slow build. We see where things are going, but at once there's a lot to happen in between, and it's gonna be a great ride. It has been, is, and will be. So you guys take care of yourselves, please, please. And as always, I will be back before you know it.